So you're welcome again to another session on our August learning journey with AI in pedagogy, facilitated by the Educators AI Literacy Project. This morning we have Mr. Daniel Adeboye with us. Sorry, Dr. Daniel Adeboye, who will be leading us on our Saturday learning adventure. Sir, not to take much of your time, we sign out and hand over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. Good morning, Ma. Good morning, everybody. Daniel Adeboye is my name, and I am happy to be here with us. Let me just confirm that you can all hear me very clearly.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be with us. So I will just go ahead and share my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
All right. So once again, I greet you. Good morning, and I'm happy to be here today to share and for us to have a conversation around assessment. Let me once again thank Dr. Oluyola and the entire Education AI Literacy team and the Exquitec Technology team. Thank you for having me come to share with every one of us as educators. I believe you are going to have a wonderful time. At any point, if you have a question, I would request that you just drop it on the chat. There will be a time for question and answer at the end, but then we can keep interacting together. I will be able to come to that. I'm also hoping that Doctor will be able to assist with some of that while the presentation is going on. So today we are looking at assessment that matter. We want to be looking at how do we move from simply testing to true learning. And maybe before I go ahead, let me just find out how many of us love assessment. You love assessment. Now I need to be able to see this as fully as I can. How many of us you would like to say you love assessment? Use the reaction, use the raise hand finger, whatever it is. I just want to find out. You love assessment. Okay. Thank you, Ayobami Dele, Mr. I guess. I love assessment. I love to. All right. I'm seeing other people coming up. So I know that with teachers, several times, many of us, we love the teaching, we love everything around it, but when it comes to the assessment part, we don't want it. We don't like assessment. We love to teach. I've met teachers who say, yeah, I'm very passionate about it, but two things about teaching I don't like. I don't like to write lesson plan. I don't like marking, especially. I don't mind to assess my students, but when it comes to marking, I don't like marking. It takes a lot of time. It takes my strength. It takes my everything. So I don't really like it. Now, today we are going to be looking at how do we move from just testing, just grading, just trying to fill up your marks book to actually making use of assessment as a means for learning. Today, we are going to be going through this trajectory. We'll look at what the problem is. We'll look at what assessment is all about. Then we'll look at the purpose of assessment. Then I will take us through the pillars of true assessment. And I want to be qualifying it as true assessment because I wanted us to see that there are different ways by which we can do assessment, but what will true assessment look like? We'll look at a few types of assessments, and then finally, we will not end without talking about AI tools that can be used for assessment. I know that everybody that has spoken week after week, we have kept saying to us that AI is only an enabler, AI is an enhancer, AI is not the main thing. And we are not going to be forever teaching about AI. We are only going to be empowering educators on how to use AI tools to do what we have always done. So what you've always done in the boring way, in the classroom offline way, how do we now use AI to make it more effective, and then definitely to make it more efficient, faster, easier, cheaper, and all of that. Let's go ahead very quickly because of our time today. The problem. Now, you can see that we have a problem. The current assessment is full of fear. And I don't know, I work across both. I work in a primary school, I work in secondary, I work in tertiary institution. And in every phase where I work, one thing I discover is that once exam is coming, students begin to have this fear of exam. So it's either they are falling sick or they are running temperature, especially at the primary school level. You see quite a number of them. And most schools even seem to encourage this. So the big subjects like mathematics is usually placed on a Monday. Something tells the educators and the students themselves that let's give them on a Monday so they have more time to work, they have more time to prepare, they have more time to read and study. So at the end of the day, there's this kind of fear sort of that is installed in these children and makes it look as if, whoa, while you are doing this kind of thing, you have to, this is exam and this is time for assessment, and it's something that you should be afraid of, you should prepare for, you should do it well. And then on the other hand, it's also a time for recall. So students are struggling to remember, students are struggling to recollect. What did the teacher say? How did the teacher put it? And let me just say that unfortunately, even educators themselves make this a little more challenging. So you've asked a student a question. I remember being some years ago in this WAEC examiner setting, and I sat down with them and as one of the examiners, just applied to mark WAEC. And my supervisors, the older ones, they were discussing, and we got to a point where a question was asked in WAEC, and when we looked at the marking scheme, the teachers, we all agreed that this marking scheme is outdated. There are more relevant things in line with what the question asks. And then here comes the main question. What if a student gives a more relevant current answer different from what is in the marking scheme? What do we do? And you know, the matter was pulled back and forth. And at the end of the day, the issue is this. We want them to recall what we have been taught in class. That made me very sad because it then showed the current state of the education system. Now, this is not very recent. This is probably some 5 years thereabout ago. But it made me sad because I was just thinking, if a student is growing well and learning well and developing well, and even now with the advent of AI and information everywhere, why should we make our students only recall information? So we should be moving from that fear and recall to engagement and mastery. We should be using assessment as engagement. We should be attempting to engage our students and make sure that assessment is time when they look forward to it. They are happy to get into it. They are not afraid. It doesn't breed fear. They are thinking about it and they are saying, yes, we are going to have an assessment. And then it's not all about recall, it's about mastery. So the big shift is from testing to true learning. How can assessment be used for learning? How can we use assessment for learning? It should be a period of learning, not just a period of testing, not just a time of grading. And you know, this can sometimes be tricky. I remember once I got towards maybe 1 or 2 weeks before exam, and I suddenly looked at my grades book and discovered that I still have one assessment. There's one 5 marks somewhere that I've not yet filled. I can't remember whether it was 5 marks or 10 marks. The question now is, what do I do? How do I get that 10 marks filled? Of course, I have several options. One option is to get something across to the students. One option is to say, okay, let's find something to do. Let me just give them something to do. All right, somebody says we should give them application question. So somebody says, one option is to say, let me just give them something. Another person says, I will just fill it up, give everybody 5 marks, and we go from there. So very gradually, we are no longer assessing for learning. We are no longer giving assessment to enhance the learning of our students. We are just testing. We just want to check who is the best student in class. And with our education system that is built around promotion, around position, it's all about who is the first, who is the second, who is the third. And I began to invent a new award. I began to give award to the most improved student because I want to find out who is truly learning. The most improved student, not just the best student. And usually you know that it's one person that takes the best student from grade 1 to grade 6. The guy is intelligent. He's probably going to keep doing better. They shovel it among 3, 4, 5 students. They never let somebody else get in. And the rest feel like nothing is happening. But when I see a student who scored 32 first term and scored 37 second term and scored 45% third term, now he has not become the best, but he has improved. He has learned. Learning is taking place. I like to help such persons. So there's that shift from simply testing to learning. Now, let me move ahead. What is true assessment? And at this point, let me give a few people an opportunity to just tell us, what do you think assessment is all about? What is assessment? You can put it in the chat. Let me allow you to put it in the chat. I think that would be better. Just type in the chat session, what do you think is assessment? What is true assessment? True assessment. Yes. I'm trying to wait for a few comments. True assessment. Assessment is testing of knowledge and improve of learning. All right. Thank you. Oh, thank you, sir. I see you, sir. Yes, sir. I think that's one of our past facilitators. Yes. Anybody else? What is assessment?
Or meeting call.
True assessment will involve not just grading, but feedback for future instructions. Yes, thank you. Thank you. True assessment is checking how well the students have improved with his learning. Good. It is checking if learning has taken place. Good. Yes. True assessment can be said to be the ability to see students improving on what is being taught and be now it's coming up fast. And be able to give feedback. True assessment means to ascertain amount of knowledge acquired by students, honest evaluation of student progress, knowing the level of understanding of the students we can evaluate. All right, thank you very much for all your definitions. Testing of learners, knowledge and intelligence, process by which judgment or learning outcomes of learners are based. Okay, true assessment. Now, I discovered that every one of us in defining assessment, we are always tilted towards the students. We are always looking at the students, and we are going to be looking at the purpose of assessment as we go ahead. But let me just define assessment as that thing that drives learning. And so there are these 3 keywords that we are going to be looking at as we look around assessment. Keywords. Number 1 is the fact that assessment should be geared towards driving learning. It should be geared towards driving learning. Of course, the second thing is that it must align with real-world applications so that we can try to find out whether these students are not only recalling knowledge, but applying it meaningfully to solve problems. We want them to solve problems. We want them to demonstrate mastery. We want them to prove that they understand. We don't just want them to recall. We don't just want them to think about what to do. So it has to drive learning. it has to have a real world relevance and application, and thirdly, mastery base. So every time you think about assessment, think about it in these three keywords. Number one, your assessment, your questions, your evaluation, whatever it is that you are doing, whether it is formative or summative, as the case may be, it must drive learning. It must be towards learning. It's not just to know who is best. It's not just to fill up your grades book. It must be to ensure that the students are learning properly. Number two, it should have real world relevance. So this is where application questions come in. And somebody mentioned application questions earlier. This is where application questions come in. It therefore means that when we are assessing, we must ensure that our assessments have real world relevance. Let them be able to identify with it, because whatever it is we are teaching and we want to assess actually has this real world relevance. Finally, it shouldn't just be to recall. And I know that educators across the generations would probably have different, how will I put it now, different opinions about this. I know that many times we think about recall, and we look at Bloom's taxonomy, for example, and we say assessment should begin from the very simple ones, from recall, and then it should go to things like explanation, application, analysis, and all of that wide range. I know that, but honestly, in the days of AI, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that as we go ahead, you cannot be asking questions or setting assessment based on recall alone. Otherwise, AI is going to give it back to you. And then we will no longer be testing or assessing for learning anymore. So what is the purpose of assessment? And by your definitions of assessment, I can already see or think about what we will all be discussing. What is the purpose of assessment? Many times, more often than not, we tilt towards the student. We talk about the purpose of assessment as if we want to check the student, we want to test the student. Do the student understand? But it's not always about the student. So let's look through some kind of purpose. Yes, number one, we want to check student understanding. Definitely. We want to find out, has the student understood what we have taught? We want to check, do they get what we are teaching them? Or is there something else that needs to be done? So the first thing we are looking at is that understanding for the student. But then it's not only about the student. No, it is not only about the student. The second thing that assessment helps us with is to improve teaching method. Yes, but many times we don't think about this. Many times we think only about the student. We think about, yes, we want them to learn, we want to see whether they know it, we want to see whether they have understood it. But do we ever imagine that if you do an assessment for a group of 20 students, and out of the 20 students, the average pass rate is about maybe 10, thereabout. Many of them didn't do well and all of that. Many times our first reason is that they don't understand. Why will I teach them and they will not get it? We don't ever think that maybe I need to improve my teaching method. Do we ever stop to think and say, maybe the way I taught them, if I taught them in a better way, maybe they will understand? So I want to teach, I teach basic tech in secondary school. So I want to teach building materials, for example. And then I can come to class and write building materials and ask them. I can even engage them and say, how many of you have ever seen a construction site before? What are the building materials you can see that they use? And all of that and all of that. And when I now teach them, I can now come to the board and list all the building materials on the whiteboard. And I say, this is very good. And then I do assessment and I ask them to list 10 building materials for me. And maybe they remember only 4. They remember only 5 because the assessment is recalling. It just makes them recall. There's no mastery. There's no no real world relevance. But take this other scenario. I go to class and I say, guys, we are going out to the fields today. We want to go and find out what these guys that have been building right beside us what they are doing. I've taken permission from the principal. I've taken permission and I say my students are going to that building right next door. We want to discuss building materials. I want them to see the building materials going on. I don't keep them in the classroom. I take them out. I take them to the nearest construction site, hoping that there's one close by. And if there's none close by, I can inculcate maybe a video, show it to them in class of a current construction, and then I can see, so what can you see in this building going on? Say, oh, sir, I can see wood. All right, that is wood. That's one material. What do you think it's used for? I don't have to tell them. They can see it. Then they can see concrete. They can see iron. By themselves, they are mentioning the building materials for me. Now, the question now is, when I ask them in the assessment, somebody is saying the network is breaking, but I suspect it must be that person's network. Please check your network and connect. I can see other people's videos on. When I now ask in the assessment and I say that they should describe for me what it will take to build their dad's house. Let's assume that they've been given the money and they want to supervise the building of their father's house. They should describe for me the necessary materials that they will need. I'm probably basically asking the same questions. List for me 10 building materials, but I am placing it in a real world relevant scenario. Now, when assessment comes out and the scores come out, it's supposed to help me to improve my teaching method, not just to check whether they understand, because yes, they may not understand simply because my teaching methodology was not right or appropriate for their level. Now, if I'm teaching in a tertiary institution, definitely my methodology may be slightly different, but nevertheless, assessment not only checks students, assessment also checks the instructor, and we ensure achievement of learning outcomes. So assessment must also be tied to the learning objective. Every trained teacher is trained to write behavioral objectives. At the end of this lesson, the student must be able to 1, 2, 3, 4. When you assess, that assessment must be tied to that learning outcome. And you must be able to say, all right, this is what I set out to do. That's your behavioral objective. This is how I plan to do it. That's your methodology. Now, this is what I hope my students will get. At the end of the day, this is how I will assess them. What I will assess must be directly tied to what I set out to accomplish at the very beginning. So assessment is also to ensure that the learning outcomes was achieved. Now, let's go ahead very quickly. And here before me are what I call the 5 pillars of true assessment. The 5 pillars of true assessment. And I'll just speak into them very quickly as I go ahead. Number 1, it must be mastery based. And I've begun to talk about being mastery based. There must be quality feedback. There should be helpful feedback. Then there should be repetition, and then ease of administration. Let me pick them one after the other. Mastery based. Now, mastery based as against recalling facts. Yesterday, in the conference that we are in, I had to take a session with somebody, and we were just discussing, and we were talking about the rate of mobile technology adoption in Nigeria. What is the rate of adoption? How many Nigerians are having tech? And somebody says, and the other person said, oh, let's ask AI. And then somebody said, no, why should you be asking? You see, AI is not allowing you to think. You should think. And then the other person said, if I think from now till tomorrow, this is just a matter of recalling of facts. I don't need to keep that fact in my head. That information can always be available. More so, that fact will keep improving. Is not a fact that is static. The number of people using tech as at last year is different from what it is now. So when we check, we discover that it's about 60-something% of Nigerians who already has technology that they are using. That is not mastery. So going to an assessment and asking students to recall something about the number of adoption. No, we want them not only to recall facts. Yes, in certain spaces, there will be need for recalling of facts because we want them to understand the history of ICT, the history of computers. Computers started in 1700 something to 1800 something with this kind of computers. Okay, yes, but we should move beyond that to mastery. Not just recall, but to mastery. Do you understand? And this is why Nigerian students do better when they get outside the country. The reason is because outside the country, assessment is based on mastery. When I had the privilege of doing my postgraduate, I just discovered that I could do well because nobody was asking me to list 5 things and define things. They were only asking application. So you are working in this organization and this is happening. How do you respond to that? I discovered that because I had understanding, I could do well. Whereas in Nigeria, I would struggle to get a C and get a B if I tried because of the way we taught. Number 2, quality feedback. The feedback must be clear, it must be specific, and it must be linked to the learning objectives. This is what quality feedback is about. It must be immediate. For your feedback for your assessment or your feedback, you must have immediate feedback. Now, one of the things that makes students unable to improve and unable to learn is that they have done an assessment and it takes them a long time. It takes them a long time before they get the feedback. It takes them a long time. And you know, sadly, I sometimes fall short of this because of the volume of work as teachers that we have. We have to grade so many students, particularly for those of us, for those who are teaching in public settings. Your students are so much, so you can't really grade them immediately. You take a long time. By the time you are grading and providing feedback for the students, they have moved on. They have made the mistake a second time and a third time, and they do not have the opportunity of learning. But feedback must be immediate and it must be personalized. The third pillar is helpful feedback. Helpful meaning that, and I used to talk about helpful in these 3 ways. When you are providing feedback, you should show the student what went wrong. Then you must show the student how or why it went wrong. And then finally, how do you get back on track? So a typical example I normally give is that, let me take maths for example. So you've given your students math sums and you've asked them certain questions. And at the end of the day, you just mark and put 2/10. Fear. And you give it back to the student. Now, the student has looked at what he missed and he doesn't even know why he missed it. He doesn't even know how to do it better. But again, when you want to give what we call correction, again, we just solve the questions and ask them to copy it. And so still, the students do not really know, why did I not get this right? So helpful feedback.
Hello. I got to find more. One we have just finished.
Didn't get it. If I leave math and I go to any of our other subjects, one of the ways by which you would give proper feedback, helpful feedback, is the fact that you can now help the student to see, all right, you did it like this. It would have been better if you gave 2 examples and if you gave some in-text citations. You would have improved your chances. You did this well, but your writing missed this and this and this. Even though you listed 2 examples, you did not explain those examples. If you explained, you would have done better. Then learning will be taking place. Don't forget that assessment must drive learning. So helpful feedback. Number 4 pillar is repetition. And I know that this is where some educators would probably disagree with me, but we can have conversations around this as we go ahead. Is the fact that I believe in repetition. In fact, I believe in repetition until mastery. I normally say you give students opportunity to repeat the same things until they've gained mastery, because The goal is not to prove to them that they don't know it. And you know, sometimes painfully, certain teachers pride themselves in the fact that, yes, my questions were difficult. Nobody can score 100%. Everybody scored those of you who get the best, you score 75%. And I've been wondering why. That is not the essence of assessment. Assessment is supposed to produce students who are doing well, who are learning. So why can we not allow them do it again and again until they gain mastery? They do it the first time, you provide feedback, you give them the opportunity to do it again. Then somebody says, then everybody will score all the marks. Why not? If they all scored all the marks, because they now all know it, and learning is taking place, oh, then why not? Why can they all not score 92% and 100%? Because they now know it, not because they cheated, not because they plagiarized, not because they used any other thing to assist them, but because by your feedback, by your helpful feedback, by your guiding feedback and quality feedback, they have now learned it. And so they can do it a second time. He did it the first time and he scored 4 or 4.5 over 10. Then you gave him feedback and asked him to do it again. He did it the second time and scored 7. And what was still left, you gave him further feedback and he did it the third time and scored 10. If he is learning, then why not? So repeat until mastery is gained. The final one is what I call ease of assessment. And this is where technology comes in. So somebody says, how can I cope with providing immediate feedback? Then use technology. Then use AI. And I'll be showing us a few tools that can help with this as we go ahead at the very end when I talk about the AI tools. But when assessing, think about tools that can make assessment easier for you. And I use quite a number of these tools depending on the environment that I am in. Something that can help me deliver good assessment quickly and help me provide the feedback that is necessary almost immediately to the students so that they are learning, and assessment is learning for me. Right. I've seen that question. We'll come back to take it at the end when we have our discussion. Somebody is asking a question on repetition. Now, types of assessment. I know that generally we will talk about formative assessment and summative assessment, and these types of assessment are still valid, but in the light of the definition that I gave and these 3 keywords, it must be mastery-based, it must drive learning, it must have real-world relevance, and it must be mastery-based. In line with this, can we discuss, let me discuss these 4 types of assessment, and there could be more. But there's what is called self-assessment or peer assessment, and I love peer assessment a lot. The advantage of self-assessment and peer assessment is to put the student in the place of the teacher, is to ensure that the students begin to think like the instructor and can grade themselves. It honestly helps learning. So let me give an example of something practical I do in the classroom. So rather than once in a while, I would set a question. The responsibility of my student is not to solve the question. What I will do is to give them an answer. I'm trying to see how best to explain it. But rather than give them the question, what I give to my student is the answer to a question, a set of answers. And then I will ask them to mark it. I ask them to put themselves in my shoe and grade that student. So part of my questions can be definition, it can be described, it can be explained, it can be whatever thing it is. Then I give them the answers, deliberately put some correct answers, omit some keywords, mix some things together, and then give it to the student and say, your job is to stand as the instructor and it is to grade this script. So you know what happens? My students begin to critique a typical work, a typology of what any of them could have done. So that process helps them to learn. They are thinking and they are saying, oh, excuse me, sir, this definition looks correct, but there's one keyword that is missing. I say, okay, so what keyword is that? Now, because they are fishing out what the problem is, when they are going to give me that definition anywhere, they can't miss it because they have been given the opportunity to assess. That is what I refer to as self-assessment. They have been given opportunity to assess themselves, to check through their own work and find out, is this right? Is this correct? How can this be better? So I'm also asking them, if you were the one grading this, how can this person improve this answer and get better with it? Learning is taking place. Of course, peer assessment is also the same. And I know that some of us may be doing this quite a lot. Sometimes we do this to save ourselves the stress of grading. They say, let them mark themselves. So we have given them the questions, then we ask them, exchange your papers or exchange your notes. And then we start interacting together. This is also good. The reason is because it puts the student in the space of the instructor. So when they see what some of their peers are writing, they are able to understand, oh, is this how my instructor sees when I write like this? Is this what he's thinking? And then learning is taking place. Of course, we have the oral and the verbal assessment, which is what we do. This is what we many times refer to as formative assessment, the one that takes place after every 15 minutes of your class or at the end of every class. We do this verbal assessment, oral assessment. But let me say, don't ask yes or no questions. So just a few guides. Don't ask, and instead of asking, I am also beginning to learn this. Instead of asking, do you understand? What is the typical answer when you ask, do you understand? Of course, you get a chorus answer and everybody says, yes, yes, master, yes, sir, we understand. Do they all really understand? Definitely not. More often than not, it's only a few students who understand, who respond. It's only a few students who understand, who shout yes, and everybody just choruses yes. I'll be showing us one tool at the end that you can use for quick formative assessment that singles out every individual without taking time, without the long time. I'll be showing us a quick tool that you can use at the end. But rather than ask, do you understand? Why don't you ask, what do you understand? Now, that gives them an opportunity to think about what they have learned. That gives them the opportunity to think about, all right, what have I actually learned? What do I actually understand? Not just, do you understand? Yes, no. No, what do you understand? Can 3 people quickly share with me, what have you understood? Don't ask one-word answer questions. Where are you going? No. Where are you this? Yes. Instead of that, why don't you ask questions about process? Why don't you ask questions about how they got to understand? Okay, I know you will typically say yes, but why? Now, that has to do with when you have to do oral assessment. Of course, project-based. And there's a lot of discussion about project-based learning and all of those kind of things. I know that, I think 2 weeks ago, we dealt with storytelling. Now, project-based assessment is helping your students to do projects, to craft your assessment around projects, put them into groups and ask them to do projects, which I also use from time to time. The final one is demonstration. And this has worked for me again and again and again. It doesn't have to be the very complex demonstration where you ask them to now come and build something. Some of those things will take time, but sometimes I only put them into groups and tell them, you are going to be the panel for next week. This is the topic we are treating next week. Go and study about it and you come and discuss it in class. So they've read about it. They come to class, I sit down. And group 1, it's time for your presentation. So group 1 comes out, 5 of them in the group, they sit in front and they are discussing. They are not teaching the topic, they are discussing the topic. And at the end of the day, I can get one of my students, the other class, and say, ask them questions. Let us discuss what they have discussed. They are the experts. They are the panel. Of course, for them to be able to discuss the topic, they have to have studied it. They have to have learned it. And so this can be some form of assessment where they get to demonstrate learning. They get to show that they have learned. I believe you are coming along with me. Now let's take our first activity. Now, so this first activity, and I'll be requiring us to talk about this a bit. We want to spot the mastery. So there are 5 assessment questions there, and this is not the real test, but let's take this first. Question 1 says define photosynthesis. What do you think? Is this recall? Is this mastery? Do you think this is an example of a true assessment? What do you think? Let me see what has been going on in the chat. Recall. Somebody said recall. Yes. Anybody else? Do we all agree it is recall? Recall. Define photosynthesis. Oh, yes, of course, it is recall. This is recall. Number 2, list 4 safety guidelines for pedestrians. This is from basic technology. Safety guidelines for pedestrians. Recall, mastery. Number 2, recall, mastery. All right, I guess somebody say mastery. The second person says mastery. Both. Somebody said it's both recall and mastery. All right. I would have loved to hear our ideas about this. Why do you think it is recall or mastery, or it is both? Maybe somebody would like to speak about that at this point. What do I do? Okay. Yes, Mr. Daniel has unmuted himself. Are you trying to talk about it briefly? Somebody says it's just to write what he or she has in the notes. Oh, yes. All right. Now, let me just go ahead because we'll still have a bit of time to discuss this. Number 3 says you need to compare how fast water evaporates in sun and in shade using 2 identical trays. Plan the investigation, state the variables to keep the same, and steps to follow and how you will record the results. What do you think that is? Mastery. All right. Clearly, that is mastery. Clearly, that is mastery. Question 4. Name the 3 arms of government in Nigeria. 4. The 3 arms of government in Nigeria. 4, recall. All right. Okay. 4.
So I think there has been an issue with his tech. So while he comes back, can we quickly do a recap of what we have learned so far? I'm sure he's going to reconnect, and once he reconnects, we'll come back. So anybody wants to quickly share your learning, at least for this first part of the training? What is something that is a new thing you are taking away, or something that is a aha moment for you. You're like, oh, okay, I never thought about it this way. Anybody willing to comment?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Olaswari Hanat. I must really appreciate you for this program. It's a fantastic program, especially this part of the assessment. I'm really enjoying it so much. So one thing now that is now I'm now more aware about is the immediate feedback. No, because
Okay.
in Nigeria, we usually, excuse me, please, can you lower your voice? We usually have lots of children to teach, and because we have the time to work with, teachers are usually on the edge. Let me quickly cover the time, let me quickly cover the curriculum. So that immediate feedback is rarely done. It's usually done in a group form. And when you try to do it individually, it takes time, and the time is not there. But with this, I'm able to understand that it's not really about the time per se. It's more or less like you want that child to learn, regardless of what factor may be hindering you from achieving that.
Thank you very much for your contribution and your feedback. All right, so our facilitator is back in, so I'll just let him continue.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sorry, my network went off. It's raining actually, so I had to switch to a backup internet. It's raining where I am. I hope you can still hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you very much. Now, thank you, doctor, for the engagement. So it's time for us to discuss. Why do you think, just pick any of the 5, why do you think it is mastery or it is recall? And maybe for the recall, how can we improve it? So that's where we are now. Maybe if I allow, doctor, if you can guide us in this session, maybe 2 or 3 people should speak on that. Any of these 5.
Just raise your hands if you want to contribute, and we'll pick it from the hands raised. So if from any of the 5 you'd like to give your opinion why it is either recall or mastery, or even for those who feel that are recall, and if I get our facilitators right, how can you enhance it to the mastery level?
Exactly. How can you improve it?
Okay. So I have one hand already. Okay, so but I have a hand already up. Okay, I saw Latin War right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, let me get the question again.
Ina tunanin dai sa ta a wannan, amma dai bari dai mu gani. Ina ko wani satin a
I'm sorry, please. Is it that I'm to talk on just one question or all the questions? Because I only want to talk on one question.
Just one.
Okay, one. I chose mastery for number 2. That is these 4 safety guidelines for pedestrians. Apart from the fact that it is being taught in the class to the children, all child or all the children are one way or the other pedestrians as well. So if we say it's just to call, it means that they just only memorize it. They don't practice it. But the real sense of it is a rule and guideline that is meant to be practiced on the road. So it's more of a mastery than a record, because it's actually what they have to learn to practice, but they're also outside working on the pedestrian lanes. So that's why I chose for mastery.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Let me take one more before I go ahead. Mr. Anyebe Daniel, are you trying to speak?
Yes, exactly. Can I speak now? Can we hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my one is on the first one, where it says define photosynthesis. You see, when you, as an educator, you have explained to students photosynthesis, and for the student to be able to quote verbally what you have, the way you have defined it, and you want the child to give it back to you, there must have been presentations like picture stages, maybe a small video clip that shows the stages, so that as a child is recalling all those things that have been played. The audio visual will help the child to recall everything than everything being taught in abstract. When things are being taught in abstract, it will be very difficult for the child to recall, except for children that are exceptionally good in recalling. Thank you.
All right. So let me ask a follow-up question, sir. Would you like to now tell us how can you improve that assessment question? If you want to make it a bit of mastery, what will you do? How else can you ask that question?
Okay. If the child has been passed through stages of presentations, please can you briefly explain what do you understand by photosynthesis? What do you understand by photosynthesis in your own words?
All right. What do you understand by photosynthesis in your own words? Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Maybe we should pick number 4. Everybody agrees that number 4 is also recall. Name 3 arms of government in Nigeria. Let me just pick one more before I go ahead. Is it Ubale or Ma?
Mr. Jafar has his hands raised.
Yes.
Mr. Jafar Ubale, are you speaking? You can unmute and speak.
Okay, I think he has sent it in the chat. You should ask them
Okay.
to describe the process of photosynthesis. All right. Okay. All right. So what we are looking at is the fact that we can improve these things from just recall to mastery. Now, this does not mean we will never ask recall questions. This only means, for example, in physics, we have these laws. They must know these laws. But when you are now asking them, apart from the recalling, they must be able to explain it. They must be able to apply it. You must be able to, it must be something that drives them to learn, not just to define, not just to list, not just to those kind of simple things. Let me move very quickly because of time. Activity 2. Let's look through these activities and see which of these is helpful or not. I hope you can still see my screen. Doctor, can we still see my screen?
Yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So which of these is helpful or not? Number 1, good work, keep it up. Number 2, wrong, try again. Is somebody putting in the chat? Number 1, good work, keep it up. Just type 1, helpful, or 1, not helpful. 2, helpful, not helpful. Number 2, wrong, try again.
Not helpful.
Number 3, 1, helpful. 1, helpful. 1, helpful. Number 2, wrong, try again. Number 2, wrong, try again. 1, helpful, 2, not helpful. Okay? 2, helpful, 2, not helpful. Number 3, your essay is clear but lacks examples. Add at least 2 to strengthen your argument. 2, demoralizing. All right. Okay. Three, helpful. 1, helpful. poor handwriting. Okay, where are we now? Number 4, you calculated the answer correctly, but forgot to include the unit. Always write the unit. Number 5, poor handwriting, rewrite. Okay, somebody says number 2 should be better said as try again. Better said, try again. Number 5, not encouraging. Number 4, helpful. Now, let's just look through it together. Some people are, number 1 and 2 is, some people are saying helpful, not helpful, helpful, not helpful. If I look at number 1, somebody says, good work, keep it up. Now, we said helpful feedback must not only tell us where he went wrong, he must say how he went wrong and how can he get back on track. So when somebody says, good work, keep it up, that has not said to the student why the work was good. What did he do well? So that he can keep it up. So it would have been better if we said, good work, your explanations are quite germane, or your explanations were properly given, or your examples were unique. Keep it up. Now, when a student sees that, he knows exactly what he did well. Not just that he's told that the work is good. Excellent. What was actually excellent? And if students don't know what they did well, they cannot repeat it. They can't reproduce it. Number 2, wrong. Try again. Again, this is not helpful because I don't know what was wrong. I don't know, even if I try again 5 times. Excuse me, if I don't know what I did wrong, I will still probably do it wrong again. So instead of saying wrong, try again, he could have said, your essay wasn't quite clear. You didn't put this or this or this. Try again. So when the student is trying again, he knows exactly what to do. Yes, somebody is saying in the chat, what should I try again? He doesn't know what to try again. So for him to know what to try again, feedback must improve, must tell him what to try again. 3 and 4, yes, those are helpful feedback. He says exactly what he did well. And for that 4, you will see that even though he told him what he didn't do well, but yet this was communicated. So when the student needs to rewrite or redo that assessment, he knows exactly what to do. So this is how to provide feedback. Feedback must be helpful. It must state what was done, why it went wrong or went right, and how it can improve on it. Now, let's go ahead and talk about AI. And let's talk about how do we bring AI into assessment. There are 3 ways by which we can bring AI or bring technology into assessment. There are 3 ways. Let's look at them one after the other. Number 1, as the teacher's co-designer. How do I bring AI into assessment and technology into this assessment? As a co-designer. So you can use AI to help you co-design assessments that are relevant, assessment that can help, assessment that will drive learning, assessment that will be mastery based. So when I set my own questions, I use AI as a co-designer. I don't just ask AI to set for me questions. No, we design it together. We work together. I give it not just the topic, I give it the context. I sometimes even provide the names of my students because I want my assessment to include my students' names so that they can identify with it. I put scenarios into it, and together with AI, we design questions. We design real-life scenarios that can really assess what I am looking for. Number 2, for differentiation. AI can help me as an educator to differentiate assessment. And this doesn't have to be very, very complex. So I talk about adapting examples, adapting assessment to local context and student interest. So for example, I know that my students are interested in this kind of things. Maybe I have a class that is interested in sports. I can ask my questions that have some sports in it. AI can help me do that differentiation. So I say, I have this question. Can you frame this question? Because my students are interested in sports, some of them are interested in music, some are interested in politics. Can you frame this question, regardless of the topic I am teaching, that will involve this interest? Another way to differentiate, I remember at a time I was teaching, I think it's this same building materials, and I wanted my students, rather than just go to list building materials for me, I decided to give them a crossword puzzle. So I designed a puzzle, I hid the building materials inside the puzzle and asked them to fish out those materials. And then as they fish it out, they give me a list of the materials. Of course, it was fun, but I made it a little more engaging with the use of AI and certain tools I found online. I created about 8 or 10 different puzzles. The same words, the same materials, but the puzzles were different. It scattered and reshuffled the letters. So in the entire class, probably only 2 people will have the exact same puzzle, because I created up to about 10 versions of the same puzzle, but different puzzles. So this is differentiation. AI can help me achieve this. And with this, my students were engaged. They were searching for puzzle, but definitely they were learning, because this was to drive home the point I was raising in the classroom. So AI can be used for differentiation. Number 3, AI can definitely be used for feedback. And I use AI for feedback, for quick feedback, immediate feedback. The other teacher, I think Mrs. Olatinwo, was speaking the other time, and she was talking about the peculiarity of giving immediate feedback. AI can help to give immediate feedback and relevant feedback and personalized feedback. So AI can be used depending on the level of the student, either at primary school, at secondary school, or more especially at the tertiary level. AI can be used to provide proper, quick feedback based on the student's work. This is the rubric. This is what the students have written. Provide feedback and give him a grade. Something he can improve upon, something he can get better with. AI can help you do this and do this in a quick way. Now, let's look at tools that can be used. Let's look at AI tools that can be used for assessment. AI tools. And I'm showing us 5, not because these are the only 5, but because I just picked these 5 that can help you with assessment. Some of them are not fully AI. Some of them only have a bit of AI components, but I'll discuss them one after the other. And I plan to do some bit of demonstration. Hopefully, I'm able to do that. Number 1, we are all familiar with ChatGPT. So ChatGPT can be used to do assessment. It's an AI tool. You can use it either for feedback, for code designing, for differentiation. Get familiar with your ChatGPT. Get your ChatGPT to work for you, to work with you, to enhance your assessment and make it relevant for your students. Number 2 is Magic School AI. And I remember that during the training that we had earlier in the year, we introduced Magic School AI to us. Magic School AI is an AI suite of tools that is available especially for schools. It's like it has specialized GPTs, which I will show us when I begin to demonstrate. Now, PlayPosit is a video assessment tool. So I don't know if any of us have ever taken a course online where a video is playing, and at some certain points, the video has paused, the video will pause, and they will ask you a question. And if you don't answer the question, the video will not move on. So as the video is playing, the video pauses at intervals so that questions can be asked and you can move on. So Play Pause It is an example of an assessment tool for video. Excuse me, a video assessment tool. Play Pause It is a video assessment tool. I use it, I've sometimes used it either in my training or in my classroom. Oh, somebody is saying that the sound is cracking. Is it just him? Am I being heard properly? Doctor?
Yes, you are. It's a bit breaking now, but it's back.
All right, I'm sorry. It's okay. All right, thank you very much. So Play Pause It is a video assessment tool that helps you to assess videos. So you get your own video, maybe from YouTube or the video you created yourself, you place it into Play Pause It, and then you can pause it at different intervals and ask different kinds of questions. Multiple choice, select all, one answer only, yes or no questions. You can ask a poll, you can ask the students to type in their answers, and all of this gets recorded to the admin session for the teacher. So at the end of the day, the teacher can go through it. You don't just ask your students, go and watch this video and then we'll discuss tomorrow. How do you know if they watched it? How do you know if they watched it to the end? How do you know if they understand it? So one of the ways by which we can grade and assess in an engaging way and can provide immediate feedback is to take them through that video inside Play Pause It as a tool, and then input some assessment questions right inside the video. Number 4 is Google Forms. I know that some of us are familiar with Google Forms. Google Forms is basically not just an assessment tool, it's a form and survey tool produced by Google, but I use it for assessment a lot because they have some of these assessment tools in it. It also has now incorporated AI into it. So you can ask Google Forms to generate questions like this or create a form to have these questions. You can set the correct answer and you can set the correct mark and put the correct feedback per question. If the students select this, give this feedback. If the students select this, give this feedback. And Google Forms can be used for assessment. The only part of Google Forms I don't really like for assessment, which Microsoft Forms has more of it, is the timing factor. You cannot time your assessment with Google Forms, but Microsoft Forms, you can time your assessment with it. The final one is Plickers. And Plickers, I like Plickers a lot. I use Plickers a lot because Plickers is a non-tech assessment tool. Now, with Play Pause It, your students need technology because they need to have their devices to go through the video and pause and type the answers. For Google Forms, the student also needs to use the forms. They need technology. Sorry, I'm saying that they need technology to be able to go through the assessment and solve it. But Plickers does not require the student using technology. Only the teacher needs technology. The students will only use cards, and I have Plicker cards here. Let me just show us what it looks like. So this is what Plicker cards look like. They are a set of cards that have codes in them. They are a set of cards that have different codes, and each of these cards are numbered. So what to do is to address these cards for each student, tie each card to each student in your class. The students already know their numbers and their cards. So once I get to class, this is what I distribute to the students. They don't need devices. I am the one that needs devices. And if you see in my intro slide, that was me administering a Plicker session, an assessment session with my students in one of my classes. So I use that a lot for assessment. Somebody is asking if these tools are free. Plickers is free. You can download it on the website, download the cards, print them out properly, and it can be used in class. The only limit, if I say limit, is that the biggest amount of cards are 63 cards. So if your class is larger than 63, you may have to do what I do. I split my class into two, and I administer one session first, and then administer the second session second. It takes a little longer because if I would use 10 minutes for the assessment, now I will need to use 20 minutes because I have to administer it twice. But if your students are less than 63, in fact, there's a smaller one of 40. If your students are less than 40, you are good to go. Most of the other tools, all of the other tools are free. Magic School is free, PlayPosit is free, Plickers is free, ChatGPT obviously is free. Now, I wanted to do a bit of demonstration before I tidy up on my last slide. Okay, maybe I should just go through that last slide before I go away from here. AI enhanced questions. So take any of the simple memory-based question and paste into an AI tool. Then let's use AI to enhance the question so it is mastery-based and probably differentiated for different learners. So let's try and do this together. Let me share my screen. This will not work. All right, permit me to share my screen again. This is what I want to share. All right, can you see my screen? So this is ChatGPT.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. So the idea is that we should take one of those questions. So the first question, maybe let's take one of the questions, list 3 arms of government. List 3 arms of government in Nigeria. Now, take this question and improve it to become a mastery-based, scenario-based question for grade 6 students. All right, let's start with this because AI has to do with not just prompting, but iterating, ability to improve. So let's see. I'm sorry. Oh, can you help me improve this question for basic 6 students and make it scenario based and having real world relevance? All right. Now, look at what my AI has done. It said, sure, Daniel, instead of asking list 3 arms of government in Nigeria directly, can we make it a relatable scenario for basic 6 students so it connects with real life situations? In your community, there are people who make rules, people who make sure everyone obeys the rules, and people who settle disputes when there is a problem. In Nigeria, these roles are handled by 3 main arms of government. Can you name them? Now, this will not only make it applicable, don't also forget that I have I have asked it for basic 6 students. Now, if this was for tertiary institution, it will probably frame it in a different way. It now says, can I give you 2 more alternative scenarios so your lesson has variety? Would you like me to prepare those? Yes, Daxiel, go ahead. Very good. Now, in your school, the prefect suggests new rules. The teachers make sure everyone follows them, and the head teacher settles misunderstandings. In Nigeria, we also have people who do these jobs for the whole country. What are these 3 arms of government called? I love this. This applies it to the students. The third one says, in a big family meeting, some people decide the rules for the house. Some make sure everyone follows the rules, and others settle quarrels when they happen. Nigeria's government works in a similar way. Can you name these 3 arms of government? So you will discover that doing this would help your students. If you ask them questions like this is mastery based. They need to have understood it, and it will not, they will still need to recall the 3 arms of government, but they can relate it to life. So the next time the prefect says, all students stand up and meet me here, the students can tie that already to the arms of government that they are being taught. So the next time they will not likely forget very easily. So this is ChatGPT. I know that we are familiar with GPT already. Now let me show us.
Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's someone on the chat who says that all the instructors we've been having have not used Yoruba language as a subject example. So I don't know if along the line you could show that AI can also assist Yoruba language teachers.
Oh yes, let me see. Yoruba language. Let me see what topic we can have in Yoruba language, like
let's ask Mr. Deyonju, who's dropped it. What topic?
Yes, Mr. Deyonju.
What kind of assessment would you like to sample? Mr. Deyonju.
All right, somebody has already put.
Okay.
Yes, Fareli Ede Yoruba.
Okay, you have quite a number of responses. Ask for Isorioro for GSS 3.
I want to assess students on Fareli Ede Yoruba in a Yoruba class.
For GSS 3.
Thank you, ma. For GSS 3 students. How can you improve this assessment and make it mastery based and real life scenario? So let's look at what it did. Improved assessment, mastery and real life scenario. You are helping a children's book writer to create a Yoruba storybook for primary 1 pupils. The writer has asked you to check that all the Yoruba words in the story use the correct vowels. She also wants you to explain to the children how vowels work in Yoruba so they can read better. Your task is to read the short story provided, explain and teach. Choose 5 words from the story and explain the role of the vowels in pronouncing them correctly. Create and apply. Write a 4 to 5 line rhyme or poem for primary 1 pupils that uses all 7 vowels, Yoruba vowels at least once. So the idea is that in a real assignment or maybe exam, you may not be able to give all of these 3, but you can pick one of these and then now give the student and ask the student. For example, you yourself could create the story like they say, read a short story provided and correct all the mistakes in the Yoruba vowels. This is like self-assessment. It helps them put themselves in the class of the instructor, and they can now identify and correct. So instead of just saying list all the Yoruba vowels, you can write a story in Yoruba and make them to identify and correct that story. So we can actually ask ChatGPT to write this short story and deliberately make some mistakes in certain vowels, maybe just 5 lines, and have the students correct it. I hope that is clear. So this is one way by which AI can help. And I discovered that, yes, not only in Yoruba, because I know that on this platform, we have people from the north and from the east. Whatever language you are teaching, you can try it out with ChatGPT or any AI tool, and it will help you do that clearly. All right. I wanted to share and just quickly show, where's my, I think this is it. Yes. So this is a Magic School. This is how Magic School looks like. I believe you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. So this is Magic School. And here there are several tools. Let me just go through all of them. Image generation, worksheet generator, multiple choice and quiz assessment, presentation generator, lesson plan, academic content, writing of feedback, rubric generator, YouTube video questions. So with this, you can paste a YouTube video into it, and it will generate questions based on the YouTube video. Now, this is different from Play Pause It. In Play Pause It, the questions are imputed right into the video. For YouTube, for this one, you just put the YouTube link, it just generates the questions, and then you can ask your students to watch the video, and then they can follow through the questions. So you can explore any of this. This is Play Pause It, and oh, I'm sorry, I didn't sign into this, but this is Play Pause It. Like I already explained, you select your video, you search for your video, and then as the video is playing, you will be pausing and adding questions into it. We are all familiar with Google Forms. This is Google Forms like we know, and you can start a new Google form here. Just the same way you create a Google form. And as you create the Google form, you can make it like an assessment. So if I say, do you like this class? Add all. Yes, no, maybe. Then in settings, I can say make this a quiz when I go to settings. If I say make this a quiz, it says, do you want me to release grades immediately after each submission? Yes. Respondent settings. Each point is 1 mark. So all of these are settings that you can put to ensure that this becomes a quiz. Then here, it now gives me the option to select the answer key. So I say, oh, the correct answer is yes. If the students pick yes, you make sure it is right. It is 1 point. This is add answer feedback. So for incorrect answer, you can now say, are you sure? Look through the notes again on page 20. It will help you. And then if the answer is correct, I can say, sure, the class was interesting. Keep it up. So with this, Google Forms allows you to provide feedback. In fact, you can add a link to the feedback. either incorrect or correct feedback. You can add a video to it and then you save. So when your students are taking this assessment in Google Form, if the assessment was correct, it will provide feedback immediately. And you see that I didn't just say correct answer. I try to provide helpful feedback, whether it is correct feedback or incorrect feedback. So that is Google Form. The final one I spoke about is Plickers, and this is my own Plickers set. So if I want to create a new question in Plickers, Plickers is plickers.com. Once you go to plickers.com, you can sign up for Plickers and it can give you opportunity to set your question. So this is where you set the question. You set your question here, you pick the right options, you type the right options, and then what else can you do? You can add a picture, you can add a video, you can add a sound to it. And like I said, the students will use cards. You will use your phone, the students will use their card. So this can be useful in the classroom. I use this a lot. The only limitation about Plickers is that for each set, you can only set five questions. You can only set 5 questions, but you can set multiple. So what I do is I set groups of 5. If I want to set up to 20 questions, I set groups of 5 questions in 4 places, and I administer it one after the other. Again, this works only with multiple choice questions. And I think that's basically that. Let me return to sharing my screen again. So finally, conclusion. I'm saying stop testing for memory. We have been testing for memory for so long. We have been testing for just for testing's sake. We have not engaged technology as much. It's time for us to use assessment to drive learning. It's time for us to make sure that assessment helps not only the student, but helps us to improve our teaching and learning. And at the end of the day, assessment can also help us to gain mastery, help our students gain mastery, help our students identify with real world. So when they go out, they can know what they are being taught and they can be helped better. Thank you very much for the time. I believe you have learned 1 or 2 things in these few minutes that we have spent together. I'm done now. If there's any question, I will take questions at this time.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we would all agree that this has been an amazing session with our facilitator this morning. So we will have a few more minutes available to us. So if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand, or you can drop your question in the chat, whichever way you choose, and we will quickly address it. But this has really been, I for one have learned a lot this morning, and I'm glad I made it. Thank you so much. So if you have any question, please raise your hands. Use the raise hand option. You can find it at the toolbar there, so that we can pick questions. Anybody who has a question, or you can. Okay, so we have a question from Mal Said. He says, let me quickly read that out. Can Plickers be used for all subjects?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel.
Yes, Plickers can be used for all subjects. It's an amazing tool. It can be used for any subject. You just need to type in your questions. You need to prepare for it. So before the class, you prepare your questions. You must have downloaded. So let me go step by step. Number 1, go to plickers.com. When you get to plickers.com, you have the opportunity to download the Plicker cards. You download it as a PDF file and print it out. I recommend that you print on card, not on paper, so that it doesn't get roughened quickly with handling by your students. So you print on cards and then The next thing to do is to create your class, sign up, create your class on plickers.com. When you create your class, you can now assign your students to each card. Like I said, every card has a number, and all the cards have, there's a way it works. I may not be able to explain how it works here, but then every card has a number. So you tie every student in your class to every card. I ask my students to write their numbers on their notes so they don't forget, and I arrange it alphabetical order so they know that this person is before me. If this person is number 4, then I'm number 5. The person behind me is number 6, according to their register. So it's very easy to use. It can be used for all subjects, and it is non-tech, meaning that your students do not need tech, they only need the cards in the classroom. I think I have answered that question.
Yes, thank you very much. So like we
Yes,
said,
sir. Thank you very much, sir.
yes, it's an assessment tool that can be used for any subject. So you're the one who would create the questions. Basically, it's just the format of answering. We've talked about quick assessment where we can give quick feedback. And by the time you are able to scan your students' responses, immediately you would know how many students got it right, how many students did not get it right, which particular option was a distractor, you know, and you are able to do a quick remedial before you move on to another part of the course. So that's one of the advantages of using it. And it's like I said, it's not a tech demanding application. So even in low resource classrooms, it can be very applicable. And the advantage of printing on the card is that you can always reuse those cards that are against printing on the paper. Yes, thank you so much. So we have somebody's hands. Mr. Daniel's hand is raised. Mr. Daniel,
Yes,
please go on with your question.
Thank you for welcoming to the platform again. My question is this, that I've been using ChatGPT for a little while now, and at the point now they are telling me to subscribe. So I don't know if actually this tool and the other tools, because our facilitator today told us about 5 tools. Are these tools actually free for us to access, or we have to be subscribing to them? That's my question, so that we know where we stand. And finally, is ChatGPT free as people always say? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Daniel, before you go on, please, somebody's asking that you please, before the question runs into, to type the Plickers website. So can you copy and paste it on the chat for those who are interested in
My
using?
question?
No, I'm talking to our facilitator. So for those who are interested in the Plickers tool, the facilitator has dropped the sites there, so you can copy the sites from the chat box. So over to you, sir.
All right, I even thought you will help me to answer the question.
All right, for that,
right,
for that one, it's most applications are free. The applications he has showed are free. ChatGPT has free and they have premium. So most times they prefer that you subscribe so that they can also make money. But there is that free version that you can continue using. So for ChatGPT, the notification you're seeing is just trying to encourage you to subscribe so that you can get other features. But if you don't want to subscribe, you still have access to using ChatGPT's free version. And if you are creative enough, it's enough for you to use, but for whatever it is you want to do, without going for their premium versions. So even Magic School has a premium version, but it also has the free version. Most of them have their free versions, and they also have the free premium versions. But you can decide that, okay, if you have the money, I want to go up, subscribe for premium, but you can also continue to use the free tool, and they don't have a deadline for use. As for yet, I don't know about the deadline. So what you are seeing is just the organization hoping that you'll have enjoyed the free version enough to want to subscribe for their paid version, but they don't stop you from using the free version.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Well said.
You have a message from you have a question from Adeyonju Gafari. He says, please, sir, on assessments, what's the position of taxonomy theory on assessment during this modern era and technology era that we are? I don't know if this is clear, or you may want him to ask the question and provide more clarity.
Okay, when he speaks about taxonomy, I want to assume he's talking about Bloom's taxonomy.
Yeah, that's an assumption.
Yes, that's probably just my assumption. So if you are talking about Bloom's taxonomy, I spoke about it while I was training, and I said that yes, we normally say that a good assessment should have all the different layers, from the simple recall to application, analysis. I've forgotten in detail those different steps now. But what we are now saying is that more often than not, assessments are usually only on the recall, the lower level kind of questions, which in this time of AI are not function. So let me give an example. I work with a tertiary institution, and prior to AI, we had a curriculum running, and I teach one of the foundational courses. We had a curriculum running. It was running very fine because there was no AI. You ask them a question, they have to think, they have to research, they have to go to the library, even if it's an online library, and then they solve the questions. But as AI came in, we just discovered that our students were pouring in AI generated content for us. Yes, they would answer it well, but they would pour in AI generated content. The reason was because our assessments were assessment questions that the students could easily pour into AI and get any generic answer, and it will fly. So what our the administrators did was that they redesigned the curriculum, and they said, no, we can no longer ask this kind of question in the days of AI, because if you ask that question in days of AI, they will pump it into AI and get it back for you. So what to do now is that, yes, those theories are still functional, but many of those theories were pre-tech seasons, pre-AI seasons. In these days of AI, we need to start rethinking even lesson planning. We need to start rethinking lesson delivery. How do you deliver lesson in these days of tech? You can no longer just do the boring talk and chalk where the students just sit down and before you know they slip off in your class. You need to engage them. You need to use, before, our instructional materials used to be textbooks and all of that. Now, instructional materials can be anything, taking technology into consideration. So before we even talk about assessment, we need to think about the lesson planning and the lesson methodology, because assessment is going to be based on what and how you have taught your students. So those taxonomies are relevant, but then with AI and with the recent technology now, we need to start thinking differently on how to apply that. Doctor, I think I tried. You may want to help me add a little more to what I have said.
Yes. So even if you go to do further reading on those taxonomy, you find that in recent times there have been modifications, and they have modified them to address the present needs in our schools and in our classrooms. So those the taxonomies, sorry, let me just mute who's creating an echo here. The taxonomy that we were trained with while we were in teacher colleges and all that have been modified through the years, and especially in recent times, to address the present demand we have in the school in this particular area, like you said. So it's moved away from recall and all that. So like our facilitator said, there are places where this kind of assessments are necessary. The law of motion, you still need to have what it states, be able to define it or state it and all that. But then we're moving to where we're applying this knowledge now. And especially now with the challenges we have, where students are becoming dependent on AI to answer questions, we need to look at how we can re-strategize our assessments. And what we've learned today, the examples he has given, for instance, where the students come as panelists to discuss topics, AI can't discuss it for them in the classroom. So even if they use AI to understand, they use AI to generate the information and content, they have to still sit with it and understand it to be able to come and discuss as panelists in the classroom. So we need to think innovatively about how we will restructure our assessments. And that's why I'm glad for as many of us have attended today's session and what our facilitator has shared, different innovative ways in which assessments can be done in the classrooms these days. So another way people normally would do is like, okay, this is the theory. Instead of giving them homework to go and do at home, you learn the content at home and then you come to the classroom and do the homework. Everybody does it together in the classroom, to show where they're applying the knowledge gained. And then you can, as the teacher, facilitate and, do the feedbacks and all that together. So times are changing, and as educators, we need to change with the time, not only on how we lesson plan, but also how we assess our students for learning, especially in this AI and technology advancement era. All right, so we have one more hand up, and I think we will take that, and after that, we may need to close shop. Ifoma, your hand was raised. Ogbu, Ifoma, do you have your question? Okay. Let me see if I can just scan through the messages again. After we learned a lot of things in AI pedagogy, could we now use AI to write lesson plans instead of our local ways and still be acceptable, especially to inspectors?
All right, let me take a shot at that before I allow you to add to it. This is one question I get from educators everywhere. But the truth of the matter is that times are changing. Very soon, those inspectors and those people themselves are going to be using AI. Like I was discussing with somebody a few days ago, and he was saying, and the requirements they give now is that you must write this essay without AI. And I say, why? I say, even the person that is giving me the question used AI to craft the question. So why are you stopping me from using AI? The only thing is that we don't want AI to replace your thinking. AI should only be assisted. So it is AI enhanced, AI assisted, AI co-created. So yes, SARS and MAS, lesson plans is going to be AI assisted. You are not going to be writing lesson plans alone again, because lesson plan needs to be differentiated. Lesson plans needs to take relevance and context. Lesson plans you need to be able to have ideas of what to do. So yes, I know that currently our inspectors and most schools still require you to write your lesson plan with your hand, but that's not a problem. You can sit with AI as a co-designer, think through the process. What I usually encourage is not to just dump it and say, write a lesson plan on this topic for basic 3. No, that won't work. What I usually do is to say, this is the topic, this is the students, this is the time I have, this is my context. My students are in this kind of environment. They speak this kind of language. They've grown in this kind of environment. Can we craft together? Now, I found this video, I found this resource, I found this textbook, I found this thoughts. These are a few notes. I put a few of my notes there. Then I say, can we craft together a suitable lesson plan? Now, we dealt with prompting very strongly, because what makes AI work for you is your ability to know how to prompt. You can't just dump it there and let it fly. If I'm your supervisor, if I see AI generated content, I know this was AI generated. But if you do it together and you craft it together, then definitely what you would get will be something of high value. It will not just be the simple things that we get. So please don't get tired. Keep doing the lesson planning with AI, keep working. Eventually, everybody will come to step with it. All right.
Hello.
All right. Yes.
I want to ask my question now, ma. Please.
Okay, ask your question. We have just 2 minutes.
I teach in a public school where we have 100 students in a class. This clickers that he's talking about, can he please still throw more light on how to handle a class like that, since I'm timed like 45 minutes for a period? Thank you.
Okay, so I already explained that Plickers cards have a maximum of 63 cards per set. So what I usually would do is that I divided my class into two. So the first maybe 1 to 50 will be contained in the first pack of cards. The second 1 to 50 will be contained in the second pack of cards. So when I take my first set, I would normally, what I would do is that I will ask the first question, then we will discuss it together so that learning can take place. I will ask the second question, we'll discuss it together. But now, because I have two sets, I will discuss the first, I will take the first one, I won't discuss yet. When I'm taking the second set, I would now discuss it with the students so that learning can take place. So I'll probably just need double the time. Usually PLICAS does not take more than 1 minute per question, depending on the size of your class. So 1 minute or maximum 1.5 minutes per question. So for a 5-question set, you may take 7 minutes, 8 minutes. So if I have them in 2 sets, then I probably will take up to about 15 minutes thereabout to handle the questions. And that's still fine. I'm still covered in my 40 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you, ma. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Doctor, over to you.
Yeah, so because of time, we may need to stop the questions. But somebody said something about not seeing us talk about Meta AI as an AI tool. Meta AI is equally an AI tool, an AI tool you have in your pockets as you carry it on with it's embedded in your WhatsApp there. So you could also use it with other tools without looking for a third-party tool. But like we all said, it's what you demand from it that you get. So the better you're able to prompt, the better results you can get. So you can even use it quickly in the class, because sometimes I use it while I'm even in my seminars or whatever it is, and I need quick idea. What is this? I quickly go to Meta AI and ask it. Also, you may be stuck in the classroom, your students are not being engaged, and you just want to say, okay, I'm teaching building materials. This is the subtopic. What engagement activities can I use in class? And immediately on your Meta AI, it will suggest what you can do to engage your students and get them more actively participating in the classroom. So we have those tools in our hands. They are not supposed to replace us, like we've heard, but they're supposed to assist us and help us get unstuck at times, even as we are planning our lessons or delivering our lessons. And I'm sure with today's facilitation, with today's training, we will not be assessing as we used to assess. The basic and core purpose for assessment is to ensure that our students are learning, not to show that they can't learn or to prove that we are on top of it and we are the masters of the content. And so if your assessment is not helping them to learn better, then we are not doing it rightly. We want to say a big thank you to our facilitator today, Dr. Daniel Adeboye. We thank you so much for this wealth of knowledge you've shared with us. We are appreciative of your time spent. We know you came out from a meeting to just be with us, and yeah, I know you were running back into your meeting, but from the whole house, we say a big thank you. And please do well to share with us your materials so that as teachers can go back to reference them after this training.
Yes, I will. Thank you very much, Dr. Luyola. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being in class today.
So with that, we'll come to the end of today's session. I just want to announce that we have a bonus track. Yes, we have a bonus track.
Yes, we have a bonus class that is coming up, which is proudly sponsored by Tech for Charities Initiative and Exquitec Empowerment Network. So this whole training is about generative AI training for teachers. It's free. It has a 6 learning modules session, and it's for 2 hours virtually. So the link and details will be sent and be added to this call recording when it's uploaded. So I will encourage you all to not miss it and invite your friends. So thanks so much for attending to today's session. Have a great day. Bye bye.